Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something complex. Europe's big ecological transition for cars, or maybe the struggle for one. So, here's the mission for you today. Let's try to get a handle on just how critical things are with road transport. We've got this EU deadline, 2035, to ban new petrol and diesel cars. Simple enough, right?
Well, not so simple in practice. That deadline is under serious fire. Huge political pressure, industry pushback.
Right, from giants like Germany and Italy, too.
Exactly. And, this has gone way beyond just environmental policy chatter. It's morphing into a real battle for economic survival, for energy security even.
So the core question we need to tackle, based on what we're seeing, is can Europe actually afford to delay this, or is the industry maybe already paying for mistakes made, well, years ago?
That's the heart of it. Are they trying to fix a current problem by potentially creating a much bigger one down the road?
Okay, let's start with the Move Faster camp. You've got groups like AVIR, that's the European Association for Electromobility. They're not just saying stick to 2035.
No, they're arguing it should be brought forward.
And their logic, well, it makes a kind of stark mathematical sense, doesn't it? New cars stick around for ages, 15 years, maybe more on EU roads.
Right, so if you only stop selling new combustion engine cars in 2035, you've still got millions puffing out emissions well into the 2040s, maybe even hitting 2050.
Which basically torpedoes the big goal, the European Green Deal target of totally decarbonizing road transport by 2050. It just doesn't add up.
Precisely. That's why AVIR points towards 2030 as, well, the date that actually aligns with the climate goals.
But okay, that's the climate math. What about the here and now? The industry is feeling pain, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where AVIR tries to reframe it. They say, look, this isn't just a climate burden. It's a massive economic opportunity. Global demand for EVs is skyrocketing, like exponentially.
So if Europe's car makers hesitate,
Then competitors from, say, China or the US, they just step in and fill that demand. And Europe, it misses its shot at leading the global e-mobility race. It becomes a follower.
and there's the security angle too, which feels much more urgent after, the war in Ukraine.
Definitely. That conflict really hammered home how vulnerable Europe is because of its fossil fuel dependency. Shifting to EVs, it helps diversify where the energy and materials come from.
Plus, battery materials can be recycled, right? That helps close the loop a bit.
A lot, potentially. It creates a more circular and therefore more secure supply chain over time, less reliance on volatile global markets for raw materials.
And Europe is putting some money down. Sources mention, 3.2 billion euros through things like Horizon Europe for the battery supply chain, building gigafactories, trying to create jobs.
Yes, there's definitely investment. It shows commitment. You can't deny that.
Mm.
But is it enough? Is it fast enough compared to the, frankly, enormous state backing we see elsewhere?
Yeah, that's the question. Is it leading, or is it a desperate game of catch-up?
And it seems like the fear of losing the current jobs, the existing infrastructure, is, well, maybe overshadowing the optimism about the new jobs for now.
Which brings us squarely to the pushback. It got so intense that the EU actually had to hit pause on the final 2035 ban vote back in March 2023.
That's right. Germany and Italy basically drew a line in the sand. They had major concerns.
And it wasn't just about the timing, was it? They wanted specific, let's call them outs.
Exactly. Loopholes, essentially. They were worried about the general readiness, the impact on their massive auto industries. But crucially, they demanded solid guarantees for vehicles running on synthetic e-fuels.
Ah, e-fuels. The magic bullet that might not be so magic. Let's unpack that because it sounds great on paper. Carbon neutral fuel, keep the engines.
Well, the skepticism comes down to the details, as always.
Yeah.
The current definition is murky. The big loophole you see is that it can potentially include fuels made from fossil sources, just refined using renewable energy.
So not truly zero carbon from scratch. It's more like carbon offset refining.
Kind of. It allows you to keep using a lot of the existing fossil fuel infrastructure, the pipelines, the refineries under a sort of greenish banner. It avoids the really hard break.
Whereas many experts think e-fuels, if they have a role, it's for things you can't easily electrify.
Exactly, like long-haul flights, massive cargo ships, things where batteries just aren't practical yet.
Yeah.
Not really for everyday cars where EVs are a viable, cleaner option.
Okay, so this hesitation, this e-fuel debate, it created an opening. And politically, things got really spicy. The EPT, the Conservatives, the biggest group in the European Parliament.
You jumped in, yeah, they started calling to actually reverse the 2035 ban altogether.
And their reasoning. They point to the industry struggles, citing figures like 14 million jobs potentially at risk, layoffs at VW, Ford, suppliers. It sounds pretty grim.
It does. And they're pushing for what they call a realistic approach. That means making room for alternatives like e-fuels, biofuels, and also transitional tech.
Like plug-in hybrids, PHEVs?
Right, which, let's be clear, still have a combustion engine and rely on gasoline for a chunk of their driving.
Hmm.
We aren't zero emission at the tailpipe all the time.
And the EPP's demands didn't stop there, did they? They also wanted to shield car makers from penalties.
Yes, penalties for failing to meet the 2025 emission standards. Not 2035, but the ones already in place.
Wow. That's a big tell, isn't it?
It's a massive red flag. It signals that the immediate costs are biting hard right now. They're actively trying to dodge existing rules, which tells you this isn't just a future policy debate. It's a present-day crisis for parts of the industry.
Hold on, though. Crisis feels like a strong word, especially when we know these car makers posted some pretty hefty profits recently. Couldn't they argue they were just maximizing returns to fund future R&D? Or was it something else?
That's the million-euro question, isn't it? And this is where the critical analysis from sources like Transport and Environment comes in. People like Andrea Boraschi argue quite bluntly that European car makers essentially failed the strategy.
Failed the strategy how?
Well, they had the money, especially in 2022, 2023. Profits were huge. But the critique is, instead of going all in on innovating and developing affordable mass-market EVs.
They focused on the high-end stuff, the premium vehicles.
Exactly. High margins, big immediate returns. And critically, according to these analyses, they prioritized distributing those profits to shareholders.
So dividends took precedence over deep foundational investment in the future tech.
That's the argument. There's a sharp Italian phrase used by some critics, piccolo cabotaggio. It means like small-scale coastal shipping, staying close to shore, playing it safe in familiar waters.
Not striking out into the new, maybe rougher seas of EV technology.
Precisely. It implies a focus on immediate, safe profits rather than the bolder, riskier, but necessary investments. And this lack of aggressive R&D and retooling over the past decade, well, that's why they seem so fragile now.
And that fragility, that lack of affordable EVs in their pipeline, left the door wide open, didn't it?
Wide open. For competitors, especially from China, but also the U.S., who did invest heavily, who focused on scale and technology, and are now flooding the European market with often cheaper, often quite advanced EVs.
Which makes the push for these loopholes, e-fuels, PHEVs, seem even more like a delaying tactic.
According to the critics, yes. They're not real solutions to the competitive problem or the climate one. Some sources even call them scapatory escape routes, ways to avoid the hard choices.
Because they keep the old thermal ecosystem alive. The engines, the suppliers, the fuel infrastructure.
Right. They protect existing assets and business models, but they don't tackle the core challenge. And PHEVs, for instance, only work environmentally if people actually plug them in consistently. Often they just end up being heavier gasoline cars.
So slowing down 2035 or adding these exceptions, it's basically doubling down on past mistakes while guaranteeing future vulnerability.
That's the stark warning, yes. Because the cost of stalling isn't just losing market share for cars, it's about missing out on the entire emerging EV ecosystem.
You mean things beyond just selling the cars?
Absolutely. Think about the huge new business of battery recycling. Think about vehicle-to-grid systems V2G, where cars feed power back to the grid. Think about the know-how, the tech transfer that comes when foreign companies build advanced factories in Europe.
If Europe slows down, it risks missing all of that.
It risks putting its entire auto industry in stallo, as one source puts it. Just stalled out, potentially unable to catch up later.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, our listener, what we're seeing is this clash. On one side, the undeniable environmental and increasingly economic necessity of this transition.
And on the other, political reality, industry pressure, and the consequences of what critics call strategic errors made over the last decade, prioritizing short-term profits over long-term innovation.
And those past decisions are now being used to argue for rolling back climate policy.
Yeah, and if you zoom out, the delay being pushed for by conservatives, by Germany, by Italy, okay, maybe it eases short-term job anxieties. But the big risk, the elephant in the room, is that it paves the way for long-term market disappearance.
As Asian and American companies who are already further ahead on mass-market EVs just come to dominate.
That's the fear. Europe wanted to escape dependency on foreign fossil fuels. Does it now risk swapping that for dependency on foreign EV technology because its own industry didn't move fast enough?
A really critical moment. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into a very complex and urgent issue for Europe's future. If you found this useful, please do follow our channel. We'll keep bringing you these kinds of explorations into vital topics.
And it leaves us with a final, maybe uncomfortable question to ponder. When an industry is struggling, partly due to its own past choices, what's the real path forward? Is it forcing the pace, accelerating the transition to compel innovation, even if it's painful now?
Hmm.
Or does political stability demand accepting a degree of strategic vulnerability? Something to think about.